And you'll have to forgive me for that. I have to have some fun at this point because this is painful. It really is. You might notice that I'm far less energetic than I was at the beginning of this series. It's just wearing me down so fucking much. And not because my atheism is being challenged, but because there's so much bullshit. I don't know how I'm even continuing with this at this point. That was an example of poisoning the well, kind of. So now you know what poisoning the well actually is, and you know how Matthews did not do it in the previous chapter. Atheism in the public school classrooms. I can already tell this one is also going to be painful. Many atheist activists use science as a facade. We've covered that already, haven't we? By which to smuggle atheism into our public classrooms, science and otherwise. Really, where's the atheism in English class? I mean, if you're going to use a word like otherwise, think about what that actually implies. Because, yeah, there's no atheism in English class. So there's no otherwise. It's really just science. And the reason that they're trying to smuggle atheism into science is because science does not use the God hypothesis. And things that do not use the God hypothesis are secular. And atheists pretty much have a secular worldview. Because reality is secular, therefore science has no gods in it. A facade, right. A facade like... you see this face of mine? This is a facade for my real face, which is this one. You see how I didn't remove anything? Yeah, the facade is actually the actual face of it. This is accomplished by various methods, from making atheistic statements in textbooks that have nothing to do with science. Oh, you mean like intelligent design? Fucking projection again? To attempts to dictate the rules of academia, including the blacklisting of those who disagree with certain theories which are considered orthodox. Ah, that word, orthodox. This coming from a Trinitarian monotheist who thinks that other versions of Christianity are to be blacklisted. Remember when I said projecting douchebag not too long ago? Double it again. To co-opting the entire educational apparatus in order to infuse atheism in the form of humanism or ... or rose by any other name. And yes, that is in fact in this. I could not make this shit up. And you can see for yourself by clicking the link in the description and going to chapter 9 and viewing the end of the second paragraph. We're not trying to dictate the rules of academia. Academia dictates the rules of academia. It's douchebag creationists who are trying to dictate that academia must obey their preconceived, presupposed bullshit nonsense of a superstition, bigoted belief from the fucking Bronze Age. They're the ones trying to dictate the rules of academia. They're the ones who are trying to say, teach the controversy, when you do not teach, oh, there's this opinion and there's that opinion, and we don't know which is the correct one yet. You, who know nothing about the topic, should therefore decide for yourselves which you want to believe. Oh, here's a better one. Let's teach the controversy between death and magical fluffy happy land. Okay? Some people think that individuals die. But in reality, what happens is that they go to a magical fluffy happy land and leave behind a cloned body of themselves. They live forever in magical fluffy happy land and do not actually die. If you prefer that belief to the idea that organisms die eventually, believe that if you wish. Let's teach the controversy. Let's teach stork theory as a controversy against the, pregnancy theory. Let's teach flat earth theory because we've never been to the top of a fucking mountain or ridden in a plane and looked out the fucking window. Oh, you see that curve to the earth? That's not actually there. Let's teach flat earth theory. Member of the National Academy of Sciences and emeritus even Pew professor at Pennsylvania State University, Philip S. Skell warned students not to voice their doubts about Darwinism due to fear of being blacklisted and risking their grades and or careers. Tell you what. Become a geologist and believe and assert that you believe that the Earth is flat and that it is a flat disk that is supported on the back of 4 humongous elephants that themselves rest on the back of Great Atuan. I smudged my glasses. The space turtle that swims through space endlessly. Go ahead and call yourself a geologist and assert that you believe that this is a fact. Not only that you assert it, but you do in fact believe that this is the truth. Go ahead. See how long people take you seriously as a supposed geologist. You will never work, not because it's orthodox belief, but because you're believing something that is completely fucking wrong. Guess what? Creationism is completely fucking wrong. If you admit that you believe that Magic Man did life, you are essentially admitting that you are incompetent at your fucking job. This is why Jonathan Wells cannot get a job as a biologist in any serious capacity. He has to work for creationists. Why? Because he thinks, here's how biology works, and I have a degree in this, but it's completely fake and it's magic. It's not because the belief is considered orthodox. It's because it's fucking the truth. It is the fucking truth, and people believe it because it's the fucking truth, and they can demonstrate that it's the fucking truth. And if you disagree with 2 plus 2 equals 4, then don't call yourself a fucking mathematician. Yes, if you say that you strongly believe that 2 plus 2 does not equal 4, you'll never make it as a mathematician. Those evil cultists of math. Let us consider a few examples. In their textbook Biology, Discovering Life, 2nd edition, Health & Co., 1994, page 161, Joseph Levine Kenneth Miller wrote, incidentally, this is the same Kenneth Miller who in 1994 could not find any embryological images more recent than the fraudulent 1866 drawings of Ernst Haeckel, 128 years of unnoticed scientific progress. 150 years on your face, you fucking projecting piece of shit. He could not find or did not bother to find, or maybe he was talking about those things, you piece of shit. The fraudulent drawings of Ernst Haeckel. You know what was fraudulent about his drawings? It's because he fudged them a little bit. He made some alterations to better illustrate the point. That's what was fraudulent. The actual embryos of Haeckel didn't completely match his drawings, but they certainly point in that direction. The reason that Haeckel is such an idiot is because he is remembered as a fraud, but he didn't have to do any fraudulent drawing to prove his point. He was right, to some extent at least. But because he fudged his drawings a little bit, he will forever be remembered as the Ernst Haeckel who invented embryos that looked nothing like the real ones, even though they kind of did. 128 years of unnoticed scientific progress. 128 years of you making shit up that your butt can't cash. Darwin knew that accepting his theory required believing in philosophical materialism, the conviction that matter is the stuff of all existence, and that all mental and spiritual phenomena are its byproducts. In Darwin's world, we are not helpless prisoners of a static world order, but rather masters of our own fate. And from a strictly scientific point of view, rejecting biological evolution is no different from rejecting other natural phenomenon. Sick? Spelling S-I-C. Natural phenomenon. Phenomena, right. Such as electricity and gravity. Sorry about the confusion there. As I said, this is my first time reading these parts, so my brain gears can clang a little bit when they get thrown out of whack. How exactly does this have anything to do with students learning biology? Right. I'm sorry, I was waiting for a point. What does any of that have to do with learning biology? Oh, maybe it was the history of Darwin. Or maybe they were in a section talking about Darwin, as a character, the same way that you might mention Newton's accomplishments in his life, or no, it's never talk about who discovered something, never talk about the great figures of scientific history. No, just stick to the facts, ma'am. Never Darwin. Who the fuck is Darwin? Oh, Charles Darwin discovered it. Who was he? You don't need to know. He was a fucking atheist, and we don't talk about that. Neil Campbell and Jane Rees made the following logical blunder. I bet it's neither a blunder nor illogical, whilst for some odd reason arguing against design in their textbook Biology. 6th edition, San Francisco, California, Pearson Education, Incorporated, 2002, pages 438 to 439. Surely the best way to construct the infrastructure of a bat's wing is not also the best way to build a whale's flipper. Such anatomical peculiarities make no sense if the structures are uniquely engineered and unrelated. A more likely explanation is that all mammals descend from a common ancestor. Thanks for cutting out the word "are." Is that all mammals are descended. Just the historical constraints of this retrofitting are evident in anatomical imperfections. For example, the human knee joint and spine were derived from ancestral structures that supported four-legged mammals. Almost none of us will reach old age without experiencing knee or back problems. If these structures had first taken form specifically to support our bipedal posture, we would expect them to be less subject to injury. Is my car really not intelligently designed because it requires maintenance and it falls apart as it ages? No, your car would not be intelligently designed if it had one wheel that was sideways, no motor, and would collapse as soon as you sat in the fucking seat. Your spine, by the way, the double curvature of the spine, is what causes so much back pain, especially the lower back, because the spine curves in and that weight from the top of your body presses down and compresses it, and it causes a lot of pain to a lot of us in our lower back. Our knees are going to wear out so quickly, and you can't do maintenance on your fucking knees. If your body was perfectly engineered by a perfect God, it would be trivial to make a maintenance system in your knees. Oh, your knees are going to be fixed. Oh, your back is never going to hurt. Here's an idea for a body that would have been intelligently designed. The spine would be at the center, supporting weight evenly distributed all around the middle central pillar. You know, our two legs would be fine. We have our hips, and we have our spine, and around the spine we have our lungs, and the heart is in there somewhere, and the intestine maybe go around or something to distribute the weight evenly. That would have solved a lot of back pain. We could have had enough space between the different organs to be able to bend, and we might even be able to bend in more directions because of that configuration. Or at least it could be easy for someone intelligent to design such a concept that would work. But, of course, the all-powerful, super-intelligent, all-knowing God of the universe is an incompetent douchebag, so he decided to screw us by making most of us die of our teeth, or wear out our knees, or become crippled in old age. So yeah, where is the logical blunder in any of this? The best way to construct the infrastructure of a bat's wing is not the one that was used by this supposed God. So they are correct in everything they quote here. These structures changed and changed again and changed again and continued to change until they ended up the way they were. Not to become the best, perfect, most ultimate way of doing something, but, you know, good enough for government work, basically. Ironically, the human knee is actually a wonderful example of intelligent design. Right. How many times have you just been walking and then your knee seized up because the plate, the kneecap, is it scapula? The scapula just slipped and pinched a nerve and caused you an incredible amount of pain. I've had that happen to me. Not very often. I've met people who had it happen to them all the time. I've even met someone who had to have it removed because it caused too many problems. That's the thing you're going to argue is intelligently designed? Thank you for proving that intelligent design is bullshit, is all I'm going to say. As is the human spine. Really, the double curvature is the cause of so much back pain, therefore God it's super great. Well, your God's a dick. Again, I know I've said this a lot already, but you keep repeating stuff that makes me say this. And evolutionary ideas about back pain resulted in treatments that made problems worse. Oh, so there's nothing that ever fixes back pain. Only prayer. There's such a thing as chairs, not like this one, that are more comfortable and better support the back to prevent problems like back pain. The evolutionary ideas led to this thing called ergonomics. I don't know if you've heard of that. No prayer involved in that, or sacrificing goats if that's what your religion does. In his textbook Evolutionary Biology, 3rd edition, Sunderland, MA, Massachusetts or Maryland, I don't know. Sinar Associates, 1998, page 5. Douglas Futuyama wrote, by coupling undirected, purposeless variation to the blind, uncaring processes of natural selection, Darwin made theological or spiritual explanations of the life process superfluous. Yes, he did. Thus, according to this worldview, philosophy masquerading as biology, studying bioorganisms logically and scientifically leads to the conclusion that God is irrelevant. Yeah, pretty much. Couldn't have said it better myself. Studying life shows you how inept the God of the Bible is, and therefore you need no God to explain any fucking thing in biology. Could not have said so better. I guess he was drunk and, failed at being as inept as usually when he wrote this. P.Z. Myers, atheist biologist and associate professor at the University of Minnesota, was asked, "What's most important to you? Advancing atheism or advancing the public understanding of science, or are they kind of one and the same to you?" His answer was, they are inseparable. That bastard. I mean, he's a bastard for other reasons, but, that's a separate issue. What might this tell us about the manner in which he teaches biology? Indeed, one evolutionist, Borozivkovic, has even explicitly declared that it's okay to deceive students as long as they end up believing in evolution. I disagree with Borozivkovic here, especially because you don't need to deceive students so to make them end up believing in evolution. Creation.com, however, certainly finds it okay to deceive their sheeple in order to make them end up believing in God. That doesn't seem to be a problem with Christians do it, but if an alleged evolutionist allegedly says something along those lines, no, double standards are only good for Christians. Neil deGrasse Tyson, who is linked here to another article, director of the Hayden Planetarium, appears to consider science to be a missionary field whereby he seeks converts. I want to put on the table not why 85% of the members of the National Academy of Sciences reject God. I want to know why 15% of the National Academy don't. That's really what we've got to address here. If you can't convert our colleagues, why do you have any hope that you're going to convert the public? Yes, convert, therefore religion, therefore science is wrong. Because if you only pick the words you recognize, you can pretend to tell yourself a story. In Humanism, a New Religion, Charles Francis Potter wrote, "Education is thus a most powerful ally of humanism." Right. Schools, for instance, can teach their students such things as African Americans are not subhuman filth. How horrible, then, is education for teaching things like humanism? And every American school is a school of humanism. They're certainly secular, and since secular schools teach, for the most part, respect of, people despite their differences, such as being gay or being black or having breasts and a vagina, those are still people. Although I know the Bible does not describe these people as such, they are in fact human beings. I know that's a shock to creationists. I'm sorry if your brain just slipped out of your ears. It was probably not really that hard for it to do anyways, and was bound to happen eventually. What can atheistic Sunday schools meeting for an hour once a week and teaching only a fraction of the children do to stem the tide of the 5-day program of humanistic teaching? Right, humanism equals atheism. Oh right, I covered that. No, it's not. In Religion for a New Age, John J. Dunphy wrote, "I am convinced that the battle for humankind's future must be waged and won in the public school classroom by teachers who correctly perceive their role as the proselytizers of a new faith." Right. The battle for humankind's future. Atheists are evil. They want humankind's future to be non-existent because evil, scary, scary. Therefore, I'll finish the quote, but I don't really need to make a fucking point at this juncture, do I? A religion of humanity that recognizes and respects what theologians call divinity in every human being. These teachers must embody, the quote continues here, these teachers must embody the same selfless dedication as the most rabid fundamentalist preachers, for they will be ministers of another sort, utilizing a classroom instead of a pulpit to convey humanist values in whatever subject they teach. Also, it's not just science. Regardless of the educational level, preschool, daycare center, or large state university, the classroom must and will become an arena of conflict between the old and the new. This was true in the Scopes monkey trial decades ago. So yeah, the rotting corpse of Christianity, together with its adjacent evils and misery, and the new faith of humanism. It would undoubtedly be a long, arduous, painful struggle, replete with much sorrow and many tears. Yeah, a lot of struggle, a lot of sorrow, and many tears, and hell, sweat and blood at some level. But humanism will emerge triumphant. It must if the family of humankind is to survive. Yes, that is why humanism will emerge triumphant from this conversation. Because if humanism fails, we're dead anyways. So, hey, humanism wins either way. It'll win by either allowing us to survive in the future, or failing and proving that religion leads to our extinction, which will prove humanism to be correct and kind of emerge triumphant, although none of us will be around to fucking care at that point. If you think it's a slippery slope to say that religion will lead us to our doom, if you think that's alarmism or an extreme position, Dark Ages plus nuclear weapons equals death. That is the calculation that you have to remember. G. Richard Borzoth wrote, "And how does a god die? Quite simply because all his religionists have been converted to another religion." Right. The Greeks converted to other religions, and therefore the Greek religion died off. And there's no one left to make children believe they need him. See previous. Finally, it is irresistible. We must ask how we can kill the God of Christianity. As we must. That's me saying so. We must kill the fictional character called the God of Christianity, because doing so is to kill Christianity, the religion, which is so harmful. It is the most massive religion in the world today, and so harmful that getting rid of it can only benefit. At the same time as we kill Christianity, we will eventually kill Islam, Hinduism, and all of the other bullshit religions that were. Hopefully Scientology. I haven't mentioned Scientology in a while, but yeah, kill that too. Kill all cults. All of them. Not cultists. Don't kill the cultists. Get them to abandon their religion, because the fastest way to tear down a church is not to put a bomb in it, because people will rebuild it. The fastest way to get people to tear down the church is to get all the congregation to stop going to the fucking church and put the pastor out of a fucking job and, have an abandoned building just gathering dust and wild dead animal bodies, and eventually be torn down for health reasons. That's how you kill a religion. You don't bomb it, you don't murder people, you get its practitioners to give it the fuck up. We need only ensure that our schools teach only secular knowledge, that they teach children to constantly examine and question all theories, except evolution, right? All theories, you must question everything and accept science as an orthodox, unquestionable faith, and truth put before them in any form. If we could achieve this, God would indeed be shortly due for a funeral service. And we know that this is a fact given people like Matt Dillahunty, individuals who are religious and want to confirm the religion, want to know as much as possible about the religion, and therefore they study the religion in depth and abandon it. If we could achieve the immense success of getting everyone to question all theories, even evolution, we could get God dead. And of course I'm referring to the fictional character here. There is no God, so you can't kill Voldemort. But we can certainly kill the religion. We can stop people from believing in stupid bullshit. The Sunday Times reported the following proselytizing attempts. Richard Dawkins, the Oxford University professor and campaigning atheist, is planning to take his fight against God into the classroom by flooding schools with anti-religious literature. He is setting up a charity that will subsidize books, pamphlets, and DVDs attacking the educational scandal of theories such as creationism while promoting rational and scientific thought. That monster. Fighting against bullshit magic in science while promoting scientific thought? Proselytizing asshole. The foundation will also attempt to divert donations from the hand of missionaries and church-based charities. Right, he's going to just scoop into those church donation plates and steal the money. Richard Dawkins ferries charities free of church contamination. Oh, what an evildoer. Yeah, the thing that upsets me about charities, like World Vision, you know, they have that cross symbol. They are hiding their Christian source, their Christian origin a lot, but it's still right there in their logo. Charities like them, to some extent, use the money for religious purposes. I don't know that this is true of World Vision necessarily, but it is true of some religious charities. And a charity that is free of church contamination, like perhaps World Vision is, I don't know, a charity that gives the hungry a sandwich without forcing them to listen to a priest rant at them for half an hour. A charity that does not do that is better than a charity who does. And I don't care if you're a Christian charity, so long as you don't force people to read the fucking Bible before you give them the fucking help, you are free of church contamination, and therefore I would favor that charity. As does Richard Dawkins, and the reasons why are pretty fucking evident at this point. Since any successful proselytizing crusade... Oh, it's a crusade. How many Saracens are we killing again? Oh, wait, that was Christians. Needs an evil against which to rail. Thank you for recognizing that Christianity is evil. I know you're not actually doing it. Mariano authored this article. But the sarcastic admission is still welcome at this point. Richard Dawkins has identified the evil ones as non-atheist scientists and creationists. He correlates creationism with Nazism, pretty much because Nazism was sort of inspired by some level of creationism. And any evolutionist who is not as zealous as he for Darwinism, is he zealous for Darwinism? Darwinism has kind of been abandoned in favor of the modern synthesis of evolution, hasn't it? I mean, Darwin started the idea, but he had some things wrong. He had some things he didn't know about, like DNA. And so the theory of evolution has changed from Darwinism. It's something else now. It's different. It has more information attached. And the errors that Darwin made have been corrected. So I doubt that he's as zealous for Darwinism. He may call evolution Darwinism, but it's, you know, as a result of being called a Darwinist by this kind of lying douchebag. He sees as creationist appeasers, who he correlates with Adolf Hitler. Yes, if you are a creationist who's a scientist, you are essentially collaborating with the enemy. And I call them the enemy because Dark Ages plus nukes equals death. Neville Chamberlain, he refers to these evolutionary heretics as the Neville Chamberlain school of evolutionists. Neville Chamberlain had attempted to appease Hitler. So, yeah. This is again ironic because historians recognize that evolution inspired Hitler's views. No, historians recognize that, and historians do not recognize that. In fact, they recognize that he did not know anything about evolution. He knew about social Darwinism, which has nothing to do with the theory of evolution, so fuck you. And Hitler sought to destroy the Christian Church. Right, that's why the Christian Church, the Roman Catholic Church of Germany, told him he was doing such a great job and never excommunicated him, and he never in fact touched the Roman Catholic Church of Germany. When did he seek to destroy the Christian Church? There's a reference here, 91. Holy crap, 91 references. It's also ironic because the church has tried to appease evolutionists with the same dismal results. Really, show me one church that has tried to appease the Hitlerian evolutionists. When you're done looking forever, I'll still be here waiting because fucking stupid argument to make. Projecting, again, does not validate your point. Some have even co-opted science and evolution so that it is not merely method and theory, but that which seeks to answer deep philosophical questions. Sure. Saying how many angels can dance on the head of a pin is not actually answering deep philosophical questions. Explaining what is deep and philosophical and answering these questions is the domain, to some extent, of science. Because not science involves making shit up and saying it's the truth, and killing anyone you don't like. When Stephen Jay Gould, the late teacher of biology, geology and history of science at Harvard University, was asked, "Why is your work so popular?" he responded by stating, "Evolution is one of those subjects. It attempts, insofar as science can, to answer the questions of what our life means, and why we are here, and where we came from, and who we are related to." Oh, evolution explains who we're related to? And what has happened through time, and what has been the history of this planet. So does geology, by the way. History of this planet in terms of life. These are questions that all thinking people have to ponder, which is to say that religious people do not count as thinking people. Michael Shermer stated, "Darwin matters because evolution matters." Didn't we cover this quote already? Evolution matters because science matters, and science matters because it is the preeminent story of our age, an epic saga about who we are, where we came from, and where we are going. And this has been quoted twice now to my reckoning, and I'm always surprised that they don't say, "and where they are going is hell." I guess they're trying not to be that blunt. Richard Dawkins made similar claims whilst lecturing to children during his Royal Institution Christmas Lectures, aka the Royal Institution Lectures for Children, Episode 1, Waking Up in the Universe. There's a link to a video here, and it's a video that is on YouTube. I highly recommend you watch it. The quality is bad. I think it's from the VCR era, certainly before the current computer era. It's a really old thing, clunky computers, but still, the videos are quite informative, and they're just something you should watch, in my opinion. So where does life come from? What is it? Why are we here? What are we for? What is the meaning of life? There's a conventional wisdom which says that science has nothing to say about such questions. Well, all I can say is that if science has nothing to say, it's certain that no other discipline can say anything at all. But in fact, of course, science has a great deal to say about such questions, and that's what these 5 lectures are going to be about. Life grows up in the universe by gradual degrees, evolution, and we grow up in our understanding of our origins and our meaning. During his Christmas lectures for young people, which one may imagine was occasioned to speak of the glories of Christ's birth, really? Really? That's your complaint. Oh, he should have been taught about how great Jesus was in these Christmas lectures. Fuck the tradition about these royal lectures at Christmas time. He should have been taught about Jesus. Richard Dawkins told young people, "We are machines built by DNA whose purpose is to make more copies of the same DNA. It is every living object's sole reason for living." Yes. Living object's reason for living, as in DNA, which I guess we can call living to some extent, it is the reason for DNA to exist. But while DNA is getting on with making copies of itself, while you're busy fucking your wife or getting fucked by your husband, or, if you're dominant in the couple, fucking your husband, women, or, homosexual relationships don't really promote the DNA copying thing. But while you're doing that, you can get along with other things, such as, pulling an example completely out of the blue here, making videos countering the bullshit claims made by stupid creationists. This serves no purpose for me making copies of my DNA, and yet I'm a living object. My DNA's sole reason for being is to make copies of itself, but I have other interests. With regards to this and various other considerations, is it any wonder that Stephen Jay Gould wrote, "Our ways of learning about the world are strongly influenced by the social preconceptions and biased modes of thinking that each scientist must apply to any problem." Yes, our ways of learning about the world are strongly influenced by the modes of thinking that we must all apply to any problem. How evil. The stereotype of a fully rational and objective scientific method, with individual scientists as logical and interchangeable robots, is self-serving mythology. Yeah, it is. The idea that all scientists are just constantly doing experiments with no regard to their own needs or emotional whatever, it's a mythology that's interesting, and it's a bit self-serving. It does make the scientists look superior somehow. It's also completely false, and I think the fact that Stephen Jay Gould is willing to admit that proves that it's not a belief that is firmly entrenched and must be protected at all costs by scientists. The myth of a separate mode based on rigorous objectivity and arcane, largely mathematical knowledge, vouchsafed only to the initiated, may provide some immediate benefits in bamboozling a public to regard us as a new priesthood, the myth of an arcane and enlightened priesthood of scientists. Ironic, then, that religious people do exactly this. They put on a lab coat, use big fancy words, or, smile that smug smile in the William Lane Craig fashion, and word salad their way out of the fucking deep end. Is it any wonder that Michael Denton has observed, ultimately the Darwinian theory of evolution is no more nor less than the great cosmogenic myth of the 20th century. Like the Genesis-based cosmology which it replaced, and like the creation myths of ancient man, it satisfies the same deep psychological need for an all-embracing explanation for the origin of the world, which has motivated all the cosmogenic myth makers of the past, from the shamans of the primitive peoples to the ideologues of the medieval church. Yes, the difference is scientists are not making shit up. That is the difference. Maybe if you want to call it a cosmogenic myth, great. It's not about the creation of the universe, evolution, I mean. It's not cosmogenic, therefore. It's not a myth, it is a fact. And it does satisfy the deep psychological need for an all-embracing explanation for the origin of the world. To some extent it does that, yes. At least the origin of life. Then it does completely satisfy that same deep psychological need. But it is the truth. It is evidenced. It is a fact, observable, tested, and successful no matter how much is thrown against it. It is this century's cosmogenic myth, kind of. But it's also the truth. Not because we say so, not because our ideology is superior, although it is, but because it has evidence. And the shamans of primitive peoples are no different than the ideologues of the medieval church. In fact, the shamans were probably less apt of killing people. So really, religion got worse before it started going away. In light of these grand perceptions, perhaps the greatest oddity in considering atheism's attempts to co-opt science is that atheists take science, a methodology which is meant to dissect the functions of nature, often by reductionist means, and somehow turn this into a worldview. Whoop the fucking do. Is that any argument against evolution, or science, or atheism, or anything? No. Thus, atheists end up viewing humans, life in general, the Earth, the galaxy, and the entire universe and everything in it, as the results of a long sequence of accidents. Right, that's what you should take away from all of that. This grand view of nature, just a long series of accidents. This is why religion's going to lose. You can try to poo-poo everything you don't like. You can try to pass yourself off as intellectually and morally superior. But when you do this kind of bullshit, this kind of blatant lie, you show your true colors. And not only will you lose, but you must lose the argument. And you have no choice. That is the direction you're going. You are dying out. Intellectually, you are going extinct. And I, for one, welcome your extinction, you lying sack of shit. Yet, this is because they have chosen to view the universe and everything in it through a lens, science, that was never meant to be used for the purpose of worldview formation. Really? Oh, it's a long sequence of accidents. That's our worldview. The fuck? Science is not a worldview. No, it is a method of ascertaining what is the truth. And once you have the truth, you can form a worldview based on that truth. It is a method of discovering things about the natural world. Yeah, that's exactly what I just said. It is no wonder that their worldview is myopic. How the fuck do you get to myopic from a reality-based view of reality? Oh, you might have the facts of reality on your side, but you're ignoring all that shit that doesn't exist, you myopic fools. Yeah, it's myopic if you think you can see ghosts. But you can't. So that's the end of Chapter 9. Couldn't have happened soon enough. Chapter 10 is next, Atheism as Scientific Storytelling. And I can already tell Dawkins is coming up, and in fact, there he is, his name, first line. So see you in the next video in a few seconds.